When a super-powered villain threatens to eliminate all the gods of Olympus, Thor and his ex-girlfriend must team up to try to stop him and are given the mission of saving all the Asgardian children who have been captured. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Thor, Love and Thunder, from 2022. During his stay in the desert with his daughter, Gorr begs the god Rapu to send them water and food so that they can survive. A few days later, Love perishes of starvation and Gorr has to bury his daughter. While lying next to the girl's body, the man hears a voice calling out to him and decides to follow it. After a few minutes' walk, he finds an oasis and dives into the lake to cool off. When he comes across a large quantity of fruit, the man takes the opportunity to eat and soon realizes that he is facing the great Rapu. Immediately, Gorr bows to him and reveals that he is the last survivor of his disciples. Due to the great drought, his entire tribe ended up dying, but his faith in his god was never shaken. Now that he is facing a loyal disciple, Rapu has the chance to show his true nature and reveals that he has never been concerned about his servants. At this moment, he is celebrating his great victory, having just eliminated the bearer of the Necrosword before he could harm any other god with that cursed sword. After hearing the deity's harsh words, Gorr realizes that Rapu is crueler than anyone he has ever met and decides to renounce his god. When he realizes that Gorr is no longer willing to worship him, Rapu decides to eliminate him, but it is he who ends up being eliminated when his servant conjures Bifrost in search of revenge and uses the Macrosword to pierce Rapu's throat. Now that he has been chosen by the sword, Gorr is cursed and given the mission of slaughtering all the gods. After helping to save humanity in Avengers Endgame, Thor joined the Guardians of the Galaxy and traveled the universe. After several months of intense training, he recovered his muscles and felt like a real god again, but his fit body has never been able to hide all the pain he feels inside. In recent years, the god of thunder has lost absolutely everyone he cared about and given up his search for love. Now, his sole purpose is to fight and win the battles he takes part in throughout the universe. Arriving on Saturn with the Guardians, Thor begins a duel against Habuska's hordes and single-handedly manages to defeat the entire enemy army. Meanwhile, on Earth, Jane Foster discovers that she has stage 4 cancer and needs to undergo chemotherapy. However, a few weeks after starting treatment, she is informed that her disease is not regressing and begins to search on her own for a way to cure herself. While reading a book on mythology, Jane discovers that Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, can give its user strength and health and decides to travel to the city of New Asgard. When she gets there, she finds the fragments of Mjolnir on display in a dome and, as she approaches it, the hammer begins to move. In gratitude for Thor ending the war against the Habuska, King Yukon decides to give him a reward and presents him with 2 giant goats. When he enters the ship with his team, Thor receives a call from the gods. At that moment, he hears a message left by Sif and discovers that the gods from all corners of the universe are under attack. At that moment, the god of thunder decides to go and meet his friend and announces that he will have to leave the Guardians. With the help of his axe, Thor, along with Korg and the giant goats, teleport to the planet of the Falaguardians and find the corpse of the god Falagar. Next to him lies the body of Sif and the woman reveals that her army has been attacked by the Butcher, whose mission is to extinguish all the gods. Gorr's next target is the city of Asgard and he sends dozens of creatures of darkness to destroy the inhabitants at night. At that moment, Valkyrie springs into action to protect her family and Thor appears shortly afterwards to help her get rid of those monsters. Suddenly, Thor senses the presence of Mjolnir and tries to take it, but the hammer returns to its new owner and the god of thunder is surprised to discover that it is being used by a woman. Furious, he orders the warrior to remove her mask and is surprised to discover that his ex-girlfriend is in possession of Mjolnir. A few years ago, the couple met and together they embarked on a journey of romance. As time passed, their love for each other grew more and more, so Thor made a pact with Mjolnir and asked the hammer to protect her forever. However, over the course of their relationship, they both went their separate ways to manage their careers, so after several fights, the inevitable happened. Deciding to follow her destiny alone, Jane left a farewell letter for Thor and, when he read it, the man had his heart broken. After reliving all those memories, the warrior tries to pull himself together and spots the Butcher of the Gods watching the war. At that moment, Gorr approaches to attack him and the two begin a duel. When he realizes that he won't be able to defeat Thor so easily, he decides to adopt a new strategy and sends his monsters to capture the Asgardian children. After locking them all in a cage, the Butcher escapes and, the next morning, Valkyrie begins an investigation to find out where the youngsters have been taken. Meanwhile, Thor wonders why Mjolnir decided to join Jane and tries to get it back. Just then, Stormbreaker appears and the god of thunder decides to use him to teleport, as he wants to find the children as soon as possible. The problem is that his axe refuses to obey him, because it became jealous after seeing Thor trying to make peace with his hammer. Knowing that he won't be able to leave Asgard until he makes peace with the axe, the warrior decides to return home and enlists Jane's help to put together a plan of action. At that moment, he reveals that the butcher is wielding the Necrosword, a sword that has the ability to eliminate the gods. Slowly, this weapon has the power to corrupt and eliminate its bearer, which means that it changes owners from time to time. Now that he is under the influence of the Necrosword, Gorr is unable to answer for his actions, as his body is being infected by it. During the conversation, a hologram of Astrid, Heimdall's son, appears and he uses his powers to transport Thor's consciousness to the place where the children are being held. Knowing that there is nothing he can do to save those young people at the moment, the warrior tries to reassure them and observes his surroundings to find out where they are. When his consciousness returns to his body, Thor reveals that the children have been taken to the Shadow Realm and comes to the conclusion that Gorr is trying to lure him into a trap. Knowing that his enemy is even more powerful in the Shadow Realm, the God of Thunder decides to gather an army to help him on this rescue mission. The first stage of his plan is to go to the City of Omnipotence to ask for the help of the most powerful gods in the universe and convince them to join him in this battle. To get there, the group needs to find a safe means of transportation, since the Stormbreaker's behavior has been unpredictable lately. So Valkyrie comes up with the idea of using the giant goats to pull one of her boats while the axe is used as a power source. Although she seems powerful and full of life when in possession of the hammer, the truth is that Jane's health is getting worse and worse. Instead of curing her illness, all Mjolnir is doing is postponing the woman's perishment. When the transport is ready, Thor bids farewell to his Asgardian brothers and promises that he will soon bring the children back home. Through the rainbow bridge created by the Stormbreaker, the group manages to reach the City of Omnipotence. So that her friends can mingle with the other guests, Valkyrie decides to steal some cloaks from the gods of emotion, after which the quartet heads for the Golden Temple. In that place, the most powerful gods in the universe are gathered and they all joyfully announce the arrival of Zeus, who displays his power in a triumphal entry. After putting on quite a show with his thunderbolt, Zeus announces the winner of the contest for the most human souls sacrificed. Upon hearing this, Jane realizes that Zeus won't help them and Valkyrie agrees with her friends on a strategy to steal the golden lightning bolt, as she believes that this weapon could help defeat Gorr. However, Thor doesn't agree with this plan and says that, when the time is right, he will talk to Zeus. At that moment, the supreme deity heard some whispering from the audience and invited Thor into the arena to share the topic he was discussing with the other gods. To Thor's surprise, Zeus was already aware of the existence of the Butcher of the Gods, but he refused to act because the deities he had eliminated were not powerful enough to arouse Zeus' concern. Dissatisfied with the answer he received, Thor insists that Zeus help him stop the eliminating spree and ends up being handcuffed. Then his robes are removed and everyone discovers his true identity. While trying to convince Zeus to join him, Thor discovers that his favorite hero is actually afraid of the Necrosword user, so he refuses to act. Since nothing is so bad that it can't get worse, Zeus reveals that the Butcher of the Gods is trying to reach the Altar of Eternity, an extremely powerful being that lives at the center of the universe and is capable of fulfilling the wish of the first person who reaches it. If Gorr succeeds in his mission, all the gods will be destroyed at once. Realizing that Thor's plan hasn't worked as expected, Jane and Valkyrie decide to take action and attack all the guards who approach them with the aim of arresting them. Korg then joins his friends in this battle and ends up being attacked by Zeus, who uses his lightning to destroy his body. After seeing his friend eliminated, Thor is furious and steals the golden lightning bolt. He then attacks Zeus with his own weapon and puts a hole in his chest. Luckily, Korg wasn't eliminated by the attack and Thor searches the mountain of stones to rescue what's left of his friend. During the battle, Korg calls the goats with a whistle and, after stealing Zeus' thunderbolt, Valkyrie and her friends get into the chariot to leave the City of Omnipotence. The next stop will be the Kingdom of Shadows and, once again, Thor uses Astrid's powers to get in touch with the Asgardian children who are being held captive. In an attempt to reassure them, the God of Thunder tells them details about the adventure he and his friends have just been on and reveals that, in the end, they have managed to steal the golden lightning bolt. With the promise that he will soon arrive to rescue them, Thor bids them farewell and expresses his concerns to his friends. If they make it out of the Shadow Realm alive, the warriors will have to flee the army of the gods forever, for Thor will never be forgiven for eliminating Zeus. As well as having to deal with all this pressure, the warrior has to keep trying to make peace with Stormbreaker, who still hasn't been able to forgive him for trying to get close to Mjolnir again. During a relaxed conversation with his axe, the God of Thunder is surprised by Jane's arrival and congratulates the woman on her fine performance during the battle against the guards of Olympus. At this point, the couple has the chance to see space dolphins up close, an extremely rare and faithful species that lives with only one partner for its entire life. In saying this, Thor realizes that he still loves his ex-girlfriend and asks for a second chance so that they can rebuild their life together. With tears in her eyes, Jane reveals that she has cancer and doesn't have long to live. The disease, which was discovered about 6 months ago, has already reached stage 4 and there is now no treatment that can make it go back. When he discovers the truth, Thor says that he will stand by Jane until the end and support her, whatever her decision. At that moment, the couple kiss, but are interrupted by Valkyrie, who appears to tell them that they have reached their destination. As they approach the Kingdom of Shadows, all the colors disappear and, after landing, the trio walks around the planet looking for the children. During the investigation, Jane discovers that Bifrost is the key to the Altar of Eternity and then discovers that they have been lured into a trap. Immediately, the woman throws the axe through the window and tells Thor that her weapon is the key to opening the portal to eternity. Suddenly, Gorr appears and Jane tries to hit him with Mjolnir. However, the butcher manages to dodge the attack and captures the warriors. Gorr then uses the woman as a hostage to force Thor to call Stormbreaker back. Seeing his beloved having her neck strangled by roots, the god of thunder decides to save her and calls for his axe. At that moment, the trio manages to free themselves from the clutches of Gorr, who summons the creatures of darkness to defeat his enemies. While Thor fights the butcher, Jane and Valkyrie begin a battle against those dark monsters. During the fight, Valkyrie pierces her enemy with the golden lightning, but fails to eliminate him. The duel continues until Gorr manages to steal the weapon and wound the woman. Worried about her friend, Jane abandons the war and rushes to get Valkyrie off the battlefield, so Thor uses the power of the Stormbreaker to take them home. However, when the portal is opened, Gorr manages to steal the axe and Thor is forced to leave without his faithful war partner. When she returns to Asgard, both Valkyrie and Jane receive medical attention, as the battle has drained all the woman's life force. Despite having access to the best doctors on Earth, Thor is frustrated to learn that there is nothing he can do to cure his beloved's cancer. Instead of curing her, Mjolnir is draining Jane's life force, which has made her body unable to fight the cancer cells. With this in mind, Thor begs Jane to stay in hospital to receive treatment, because if she picks up the hammer one more time, all her chances of a cure will be zero. After saying goodbye to his beloved, Thor goes to find his friend and Valkyrie gives him the golden lightning bolt, which is used to transport the god of thunder to the center of the universe, because that is where the gate of eternity is. Meanwhile, Gorr has already arrived at the temple and has taken all the Asgardian children with him. With the power of the Stormbreaker, the man manages to open the portal and causes an earthquake inside the temple. The tremor causes the head of one of the statues to be destroyed and, just as the young people are about to be crushed by it, Thor appears to save them. After holding the statue's head, the warrior asks the children to stay together and protect each other until the end of the battle. Seeing the shadow monsters approaching, the youngsters realize that they will have to fight and look for objects that can be used to defend themselves. At that moment, Thor shares his power and places the ability to control thunder in the weapons of those children. While his child army battles the entities of the shadows, Thor goes to meet the butcher and begins a new duel against him. During the battle, Jane begins to have nightmares and comes to the conclusion that she must help her ex-boyfriend, otherwise he will end up eliminated. After picking up her hammer, the woman travels to the Temple of Eternity and attacks Gorr, who was about to pierce his opponent with the Necrosword. When he sees Jane wielding Mjolnir, Thor is heartbroken because he knows that the woman he loves has just signed her own elimination warrant. While she tries to destroy Gorr's sword, Thor looks for a way to free his axe, because Stormbreaker is about to open the portal. When Thor finally manages to retrieve the weapon, the portal is already open. He then throws Stormbreaker at Astrid and orders the boy to take all the children home. The warrior then uses the golden lightning to hold the Necrosword while Jane throws the hammer to destroy it. After completing her mission, Jane falls to the ground, weaker than ever. While Thor goes to check that the woman is all right, the butcher has time to go through the portal and all the people in the temple are transported into it. Then, just as Gorr is about to make his request, Thor once again tries to stop him and says that it's not revenge that the man is seeking, but love. Knowing that he will perish along with all the other gods when Gorr makes his request, Thor decides to spend his last moments of life with the person he loves most. Seeing his enemy holding the woman he loved in his arms, Gorr remembers the day he lost his daughter to the drought and begins to cry. The memories of the difficult days he lived alongside love leave him completely tormented, and so he begins to think about the possibility of using his one request to bring her back. When the Necrosword is destroyed, its user is doomed to be eliminated. Knowing this, Gorr laments the fact that if love is brought back, there will be no one to look after her. Upon hearing this, Jane says that the girl will not be alone and, as her last wish, asks Thor to take care of Love as if she were his daughter. In an act of faith, Gorr decides to believe in the thunder god's promise and makes his request to eternity. When his wish comes true, the man has the chance to see his daughter for the last time and says he misses her terribly. Meanwhile, Thor bids farewell to his beloved wife and Jane says she has no regrets about the moments she spent at Mjolnir's side, because she was able to feel like a true hero. Before leaving, the woman asks Thor to keep his heart open and reveals that, in all these years, she has never stopped loving him. At that moment, the woman's body turns to dust and she disappears. On the brink of elimination, Gorr begs Thor to protect her daughter and the god of thunder gives his word that he will. After Jane's perishment, the Asgardians erected a statue in her honor, as she played a crucial role in rescuing the kidnapped children. After the great trauma they experienced, all the young people in the town took self-defense classes and began training to become powerful warriors in the future. Even Astrid, Heimdall's son, became a great warrior and began training every day in the art of sword fighting with his great master, Sif. A few weeks after being attacked by Zeus, Korg's body grew again and he had the chance to meet his better half. On the other hand, Thor has embarked on a new journey, having found something to fight for. The warrior who has spent the last few years running away from any emotional ties is now faced with the greatest feeling of love he has ever experienced. After becoming the father of a beautiful little girl, the thunder god's heart of stone has softened and his new mission is to teach Love how to control her powers so that she is able to protect the people she loves. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.